Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Pulsar 2849, which is a 2 to 4 player board game designed by Vladimir Suchy. This one takes 60 to 100 minutes to play, and as you can probably tell from the box art, this one is set in space. This might look a little bit out of place on my channel. I very rarely look at anything sci-fi or space themed because, to be honest, it does nothing for me. However, I like Vladimir Suchy games, so I'm really willing to try this one out. Not only because of that, but because it's a dice drafting game that takes place on this humongous board here of this kind of solar system, I suppose. And you've got a lot of the different modular boards that clip on the outside, as you can see, which do a lot of different things. This is a relatively involved game. There's certainly a buffet of actions you can take, but all based around this dice drafting mechanism, which is a fundamental part of the gameplay. So before you start taking actions, you're going to have to draft the dice in order to determine which actions you can take in the first place. And that is going to be done on initiative order, which is based on this track here, which is going to change throughout the game depending on which dice players take. So at the start of each turn, you're going to roll a number of dice depending on the player count. In a two-player count, there's going to be 7. And then from then, you're going to allocate them onto these different spots here. And from there, you're going to dictate where the kind of equilibrium is, or the medium spaces on that board, by picking where the 4th die is in a 2-player game, because there's 7, and then you'll put the marker on there. And then if there's ever kind of a imbalance of where the dice are on each side of them, then you can adjust slightly. But what this means is that from now on, if I take a 3, I'm not going to have to do anything relating to these tracks. But if I take something higher up on the tracks, then we're going to have to suffer a bit of a negative penalty. And if I take something on this side of that marker, then I suffer a little bit of a bonus. Because whenever you take a dice, you're going to have to manipulate this board up or down accordingly, and if you come further this way, it's going to break or going to determine player order, so you're going to get first pick. And whenever you take this one here, you are going to potentially gain more of these resource cubes, which can be really important because they get you bonus actions. And there's also the possibility to get points or even lose points if you keep taking the high value die. So basically, the actions you're going to take after the dice are drafted, and then you're going to have two per turn, or 2 per round, I should say, and you can do a lot of things with these dice. So the first thing you can kind of do, and I should say this is the setup at the end of the game. It's not going to look quite like this at the start. For example, you're not going to have these gyrodynes, you're not going to have these revealed planets. But yeah, the first thing you can do is simply cash in a die to take the corresponding pip value in movement. So say, for example, I've got my ship here. I could move 6 spots and say, if I had a value 6, that is, maybe go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. If I ever land on a planet, I will reveal it and claim one of these planets here, which can matter for endgame scoring, etc. And also get a bonus action. So in this example, I get a bonus 2 action by taking a corresponding pip to value action. If you end up on one of these pulsars, you get to claim it with one of your pulsar rings here, which is important and relates to this part of the board, where again you can spend a particular die value to take one of these gyrodynes and place it in the center of the ring. And from then on, if you cash another die value of the depicted value in, you can flip them over, which is going to start generating you points at the end of each round. And there's 3 different values there. So and the higher ones need higher value dice. But if you get like a pair of these gyrodynes out before the other players, you get a bonus, and the second person to get the 2 out will get the lower bonus. So that's how they work, and of course you want to get a little engine going by generating points. There's going to be 8 rounds in the game, which relates to this kind of technology track, where in the first round you're only going to be able to take from the first row here, and these give you lots of game-breaking powers and bonuses, such as being able to manipulate your ship if you pass one of these symbols on the solar system board, or whenever you claim a technology, you get 2 points. Whenever you claim a Pulsar, you get 3 points. So all these different things are going to go and give you benefits throughout. And as I said, the rounds go through, you're going to keep unlocking more technologies. Some of these are limited to 2 players. Some of them are only limited to 1. It depends on the kind of player count, how scarce they are. But they all do lots of weird and wonderful things, and will also potentially boost the value of each of your gyrodynes from round to round. You've also got these transmitters here, which you can use by, again, cashing in dice. And if you do that, you have to do the corresponding value and put your token on it, and that will give you an instant reward. For example, here, give you 3 points, or let you claim one of these isolated pulsars. But then once you've completed it, you can flip it to the other side, which can potentially pair up with these other transmitters and give you bonus actions again. So here you could do like a value 2 action, or you can do this little puzzle here and maybe do a 3. So it gives you lots of manipulation there, and they can either give you instant bonuses or even ongoing bonuses like this one here, which is a bit more expensive, but will, at the end of every round, I can cash in one of these resource cubes to get 5 points. So that's how they work. You've additionally got your own player boards here, which are an optional thing. You don't have to use these, but they will let you do lots of cool things, which will either help you move around the board quicker, or help you get your gyrodynes going quicker. But this also works in this like a slight technology tree version, or kind of method, where you have to have the ones below it before you can build upwards. And of course, to get this one highest at the top, you're going to have to build everything out. And again, they can give you lots of different things, such as the little drive-by things, where you can cash in first the 2 to actually unlock the ability, and then from then on, any time in the game, for a one-time use, for every square you pass on a certain turn, or one of these hexagons, whatever, or circles, you're going to get the depicted amount of points. So, if, say I cashed in a 6 in the circles, I could potentially get a lot of points by driving past these areas here, and accumulating those points quickly. So there's lots of ways you can get points. There's a little bit of manipulation here and a bit of mitigation by collecting these +1 and -1 tokens, or these ones that boost your dies by 2. And they can be used to even take it to a 7 or an 8, which, as you can probably imagine, will let you traverse the board rather quickly. And that's going to be pretty much everything, apart from these endgame bonuses that you can work towards. For example, being able to claim, or if you claim 5 technologies, at the end of the game, you're going to get 6 points. And if you unlock this, you can cash in these resource cubes to get another 6, and another one to get 6 there. You get 2 different types of gyrodynes out, claim different planets, so lots of different things you can work towards. And you can probably tell this is a very much a point salad style game that showers you in points in lots of different ways. So let's talk about how I feel about the game. So first off, I absolutely adore this dice drafting mechanism. I think it's fantastic. It adds a lot of weight to your decisions, because you do want to be the first player, because sometimes particular values don't come out on the track here. If I really wanted a 3, then and there's only 1 there, then I'm going to have to hope that I'm higher on the track to get first pick there. So I really love this, and these resource cubes as well are really important, because they can get you potential options, because if you cash in 4 of them, then you get a bonus action. So yeah, there's a lot of weighting in the a lot of weight and meaning in the dice drafts themselves before you even get started, because you are laying yourself up and laying a foundation for your future turns. And I absolutely love that. I also love this gyrodyne system, where you have to actually visit these certain pulsars in the first place, and then invest in these, and then invest to get them spinning. And I just love that kind of engine building method of if you do it early, then you could potentially get a lot of these bonuses here. And of course, you're trying to get these set bonuses as well. So you've got kind of 2 strategies here if you want to get a couple of the same ones, or if you want to get lots of cheaper ones, but and hope to capitalize on these extra bonuses here. So a nice decision space there, and different things to try out. Additionally, again, you've got your player boards here, which are double-sided and give you lots of different things to try out. You want to visit all the different planets, because they're going to give you points at the end of the game, depending on how many you visit. So in terms of meaningful decisions, there is an absolute breadth and wealth of things to decide, and you're certainly going to be spoilt for choice in terms of your options. You can also see you've got to work towards these objectives because these points are quite significant. You're going to have to try and weigh up the how much you value these technologies and if you want to get them before the other players do, because these let you do lots of cool things here that sometimes are just so valuable. For example, here, whenever I get a gyrodyne started, I'd get 3 points, and it lets you be a bit more flexible with the die you use to activate it by being able to use a +1 or -1 to activate it in the first place. So for every planet you claim, you get a point. So there's lots of different options you can try, and I love the way the options increase as the game goes on. Absolutely fantastic. Additionally, you can go for these quick bursts of points here by some of these just simply give you a whole chunk of points, like here for this 10, and then from every round on they're going to generate an extra point. So sometimes these engine building tiles are really good to get out early because there are 8 rounds and you can potentially get a lot of mileage out of those transmitters. So yeah, lots of different routes you can go down, loads of interesting decisions, and as I said, a real points galore system that just makes you just completely attacks you from all the different areas you want to go to, and you want to dive into everything, but you simply haven't got enough actions because you only have 2 actions per turn. Potentially you've got a third one with the bonus red die, but generally you're only taking 2. So yeah, I love the decision space, and I love a lot of these unique mechanisms, particularly this dice drafting system. I think it's fantastic. The balance of the game as well is really well done. I mean, you can easily go down the different options and try to tailor your strategy, and I think they are very well balanced. For example, I tried to go for a gyrodyne heavy strategy here, dabbling in these technologies, always trying to make sure that I stay on the top of the initiative here because I know how valuable certain dice can be. So yeah, in terms of the balance and different routes you can take, I think it's so well done, and certainly lots of approaches you can take, and some particular options and routes aren't better than the others. It really is about working with what you've got, being somewhat tactical because you are subject to the die here, but of course you can manipulate them and build towards something if you really want to. In terms of the time investment, I think this game hits a nice sweet spot. It does, the box says 60 to 100 minutes. I think that's about right for our first game. It took a little bit to explain to begin with, but once the game got going, it probably took about 75 minutes to play, which I think is great. I mean, most games, at least of this scale of things you can do, take a bit longer than that. So I think it's done a good job of streamlining it, just do a couple of actions, and I think that's really nice. And also, the sense of kind of progression and feeling in the game does ramp up nicely, where initially you don't feel like you're achieving much. Two actions don't seem like enough. But once you start, accumulating these technologies and things, it certainly starts to feel like you are achieving more and more. In terms of the uptime as well, I mean, the actual time you take to take your turns is very snappy. None of these actions have too much housekeeping or anything like that. So yeah, turns are quick and easily resolved. So you're not going to be bored when it's other players' turns. And there's also a good amount of interaction in terms of the value in terms of how you're going to prioritize dice drafting. There's the passive interaction here where you always want to be getting priority and getting these resource cubes. You want to be visiting planets before other players do, because if you don't get these or end your turn on these like life-filled planets, then you're not going to get the bonuses. So you want to be in these places before other people do to get those bonuses, because they can be very good. Also, there's only ever 3 of these transmitters out, so getting there before other people go there is important. And of course, the technologies are very scarce and they're all really interesting. So yeah, there's a good amount of player interaction here, and just enough. It's not destructive. It's not in your face, but it still matters what other people are doing, and you're engaged when it's not your turn because you don't want them grabbing up the spots that you really want. Aesthetically, usually this thing doesn't do it for me. I don't, as I said at the beginning, the space theme or setting or skin, whatever you want to call it, just doesn't seem to interest me. But I think this one is done very nicely. I do like the look of the board, and to be honest, the more I look at it, the more I like it. It has a certain class to it. It's not overdone. It's not trying too hard, and I think I can't really complain. And I suppose that ties into the aesthetic of the game as well. Again, normally not something that would interest me, but I like it. I think it's done a good job of of using the theme and setting to its advantage. It looks nice. All the illustrations, all the kind of symbology on the boards is really nice. No unnecessary, artwork or nothing garish. It's just quite understated for a space theme, and I think that's probably why it works for me. In terms of the actual components themselves, no complaints whatsoever. All the cardboard is of a good stock. These player boards, double-sided, thick boards here. This board is really impressive on the table. The way the boards fit on the outside are kind of adjustable depending on the layout of the table is really good as well. So yeah, in terms of the components, no complaints whatsoever. I think it all comes together really well for a nice production. And particularly like the way that these different transmitters snap together to give you these additional bonuses. I think that's very clever. In terms of the setup and teardown time, maybe a little bit additional to maybe the average game, only because there are so many different bits and bobs here. You've got to put all these different planets on the different blind spots and stuff. It's not too onerous. It kind of ties into the replayability. I think because there is so much stuff with this game and so much modularity, maybe the sorting it out might take a bit longer than average. For example, you've got these, I think there's 7 of these different objectives, and they're double-sided. So there's lots of variability there. You're never going to be building towards the same things. You've got these player boards that are double-sided, and you get a bunch of those. All these technology boards, they're double-sided, and you get a bunch of those as well. So you can do so many different setups using all these different modules, and I think that's absolutely great, and will add a lot of life into your gameplays or into your plays of this game. So yeah, certainly no criticism there. I think they've done a good job. And in terms of the scalability, this one scales fantastically. I think maybe, well, to be honest, it's done a great job of even playing at 2 players, because you actually use 2 pieces each, and you're actually fighting for all your options here. So if you have both of your markers here breaking the initiative track, you can potentially draft both of your dice before the other players do, which is absolutely great. And that's just a great little twist to make the 2-player game as interesting. Additionally, if you want to play at 2 players, this is still going to be very tight, because even though these resource spots here, or these technology spots, have two options to go to, that is shut down and tightened out at a 2-player game, so only one person or one player can have each technology, whereas in a 3-player game or a 4-player game, that is kind of limited to 2, which is again still going to make things really tight and make that desire to get there before your opponents still really strong. So I love the way it scales, and it works well at every single player count, which is great. And comparison-wise, there are a lot of dice drafters out there, but I think this one does a good job of making a point salad of it. I suppose if you like my channel, you probably know I like a lot of dice drafters. I like your, Trismegistus. I love Coimbra, Teotihuacan. Sorry, that's not a dice drafter, but Tekenyu. There's lots of different dice drafters I like, but this one feels different and doesn't feel overly familiar with those, but because of this equilibrium system, I think this does a great job and offers a great kind of unique selling point to this game, amongst all the other cool things that it does. So that kind of concludes or goes into my conclusion of this game. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I think this game is fantastic. I'm kind of kicking myself, and it kind of goes to show you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, and maybe open your mind and your be a bit more open-mindedness in terms of the games you're going to play, because normally I wouldn't touch a space-themed game, with a 10-foot barge pole. But I think my trust in the designer pushed it over the edge for me to try this one, and I'm so glad I did, because the gameplay of this game is fantastic. It's really fun, really satisfying. So loads of things to try, and you can't seem to do enough on your turns. It has that real satisfying point salad feel. And yeah, this dice drafting system is wonderful, and I love it. The game does suggest that maybe don't use these player boards on your first turn, but you know what, I would say to hell with it. Just put them in, because they're not overly complex and they give you more options. And I think once you teach all the rest of it anyway, what's this extra board going to hurt? It's just something to go to if you really want to. But yeah, lots of I suppose familiar things, technologies and stuff. But I love the way that more unlocked as the game goes on. it has, I suppose this has a somewhat of a worker placement feel to it in terms of the scarcity of the options, but that really does shine through, and it works in a real nice, almost breezy way that's just so satisfying and fun. And I really can't say enough good things about Pulsar 2849. If you're on the fence with this one, give it a go, because I was skeptical, not normally the kind of thing I'd go for, but yeah, the gameplay just transcends everything and it is fantastic. So that concludes my thoughts on Pulsar 2849. If you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.